For the sake of simplicity with our computation here, we're going to work in terms of simple interest. Again, credit cards don't necessarily have to use simple interest or even use the same interest rate for every single month that you have one, but so we can make things a little bit more manageable in terms of time and energy, we use I equals PRT, where the value P in this case is what's called the average daily balance, which consists of the sum of the unpaid balances for each day in the billing period divided by the number of days in the billing period, where billing periods are usually like beginning of the month, the end of the month, but sometimes it'll be something like the start of the third week in one to the start of the third week in the next, give or take a day, because 30 days, 31 days, 28 days in February, but it varies. Generally though, it's some time roughly near the end of the month to sometime roughly near the end of the next month. Where to get the average daily balance, we can make a table tracking the dates of each transaction as well as the unpaid balance at each. Make a column in that table that shows the number of days at each unpaid balance. Then add another column to the table that shows each unpaid balance multiplied by the number of days that balance is outstanding. Then find the sum of the products in the final column of the table, where this dollar amount is the sum of the unpaid balances, and compute the average daily balance by taking that whole thing over the number of days. Where we'll get one example here to practice with this and strap in because it is a little bit of a long one. So for this example, suppose a given Visa card calculates interest using the average daily balance method. The monthly interest rate is 1.3% of the average daily balance. The following transactions occurred in the billing period from May 1st to May 31st, where we have the transactions as on the table, and then from there we want to find the average daily balance, rounded to the nearest cent, find the interest paid at the start of the next billing period to the nearest cent, find the balance at the start of the next billing period, and then we have that this credit card requires a $10 minimum monthly payment if the balance due is less than $360, or the minimum monthly payment is 1/360, 1/36th of the balance due at the end of the billing period, rounded up because we're paying things off. And we want to figure out there what the minimum monthly payment will be. Okay, yeah, there's a lot for this one. It's going to take a little while. So we'll start out first by setting up a table to track the unpaid balance, where we're going to start at the beginning and go until our last transaction. So we're going to start with the unpaid balance there of $13.50 on May 1st. Then at May 8th, we're going to look at that $250 payment towards the balance on the account. Then at May 10th, we have a $375 charge. I don't know, maybe they were buying a lot of groceries. Could be for a big family. And then on May 20th, they were buying something worth $57.50, so there's a $57.50 charge. Maybe that's paying a bill. And then May 28th is a $65.30 charge as well. Maybe that's another different bill they waited a week to take care of, where the total there would end up being an unpaid balance of $1,597.80. Don't carry an unpaid balance that big month to month unless you have a good reason to. By the way, that's a little bit, we know how dangerous interest rates are. So from there, we're going to add some columns so we can put in the number of days between transactions multiplied by the number of days each. So going from May 1st to May 8th, that would give us 7 days with that balance unpaid, with nothing done to that balance of $13.50. So you'd get $94.50 over that entire period. Again, we're going to be taking an average of this whole thing. Don't be thrown off by how big it is just yet. Then on May 8th, we put in that $250 to pay it down, and it stays at $1,100 for 2 more days. So we have that $2,200 there. Then on the 10th, you make that $375 charge, and it stays there for $10, 10 days, followed by the one on the 20th, which stayed for 8 more days, and then finally the last 4 days were followed after the charge of $65.30. So take all those, multiply them by the number of days each, like in our process as set up, and then you add all those things up to get a truly absurd looking number of $45,051. I did it again, and 20 cents. And don't panic. They're not saying you owe $45,000. They're saying that's what the sum of the unpaid balances over the entire period is. So if you want to find the average unpaid balance, we take that whole period and divide it by the number of days in the period, which is 31. In this case, that would mean taking that 45,020, dividing it by 31 to get a value there, rounded up to about $1,400, $1,453. I keep doing it. It's a lot of numbers, even for me, and 26 cents. So, if we want to get the value there for the interest, because at this point we've only found the average daily balance of $1,400. It's a long one. We then use the interest formula I equals PRT. So we have that 1453.26, multiply it by the interest rate of 0.013 for 1.3%, and you get the interest would be $18.89. So the total due would be that 1453 plus 1889 for a value of $1,616.19, where because that value is obviously bigger than 360, the minimum payment would be that 1616.19 over 36, or $45. And hopefully this also illustrates why you don't want to make the minimum payment, because goddamn, $45 is not enough if you owe $1,616. No, pay a lot more than that. Although I'll also mention here that I pulled this example from the book. I have no idea what the author was going for here. An interest rate of 1.3% is absurdly low. It's well below the national average for credit cards of 16%. Why he made this one really small when all of the account ones were really big, I'm not sure, but I thought I'd mention that here before we move on. And the last things that we're going to get in this section actually aren't going to involve any more computations. It's just some discussions here about how it works, having a credit card, why you might want one, why you might be worried about one, comparing it to debit cards, and then tying all the things that we've talked about here with a discussion of what are called credit scores.